morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. I hope it finds you well out there. We had an exciting day. Listen, we've had an exciting, really, month of January as it's getting ready to come to a close. We've got a new Treasury Secretary. Scott Bessent has been confirmed. The two big ones coming up, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. We'll see. Those are going to be, we'll see if the Republicans can hold rank on those two. But so far, so good. Interesting comments by our new Treasury Secretary. Much, much different than what we've been seeing from Janet Yellen, talking about gold, talking about getting rid of the income tax, going to a consumption tax. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things coming out of the new head of the Treasury. Of course, we're in emergency measures. We got a Fed meeting. The Fed meeting, they're meeting right now. Tomorrow they'll tell us their interest rate decision. Again, no one's expecting a rate cut tomorrow, but it's all going to be about the language afterwards because, they like to this means 2 rate cuts or this means 3 rate cuts or, I don't know. And again, we'll have to see. I know Donald Trump wants rate cuts, and he wants them immediately. Of course, we're creeping up this weekend on the soon-to-be tariffs on Mexico and Canada. We had a firefight at the border, right? Our troops and the cartel exchanging some gunfire yesterday. I mean, wow, yeah, I know. And not to mention the Chinese AI. Well, apparently today we got all the confirmation we needed. NVIDIA, OpenAI, both coming out today saying, yeah, that's the real deal. And something else that was also important, and it doesn't appear, China did it without breaking they're not allowed to have this chip and that chip. We got all these, trade war stuff going on. They did it without it. They didn't break the law. Like, normally, 2 things. Number one, you're kind of exaggerating. And number 2, you probably broke some laws to get the chips to do what you needed to do. Apparently not the case. So it's going to be very, very interesting going forward. If this AI thing, if there's a big change, if all of a sudden all of these companies are like, wait a minute, we can do this for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the amount of chips, that will change a whole lot. But Wall Street trying to recover today, had a tougher day yesterday. NVIDIA, who had a horrible day yesterday, bouncing a little bit, not a lot, unfortunately, but it's up 2%, considering it was down 17% yesterday. But I'm just telling you, be ready here. I know we got great things. Look at how excited could you not be excited about what Scott Bessent had to say about getting rid of the income tax. That would be awesome. And he also talked about, get ready for this, universal tariffs. Universal tariff. Forget about just China and Mexico and Canada. No, how about everybody? Maybe free trade wasn't that good of an idea. Yeah, see, because Trump's all about America first. Free trade was kind of America last, wasn't it? 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. allamericangold.com is the website. And again, tomorrow's going to be the big day with the Fed. Today we had durable goods orders. The headline, not good. But that's because Boeing sucks, right? I mean, when we think about durable goods, Boeing in the military, are pretty much the big piece of it. Headline durable goods down 2.2%. Last month's revised down to negative 2%. By the way, they were expecting a growth of almost 0.75%. But if you take out transport, so that's kind of Boeing in the government, they rose 0.3%. Of 1%, 0.3%. That was in line. That was what they were hoping for. With non-defense aircraft and parts ordering plunging 45%, and of course we know that's mostly Boeing. By the way, congratulations to Boeing. I didn't know that you could lose $3 and $4 billion in a single quarter, but Jason, Boeing was able to pull that feat off. So congratulations to them.
Well, I mean, they've had some trouble, haven't they? So, I mean, having those losses aren't really too surprising. I mean, pieces of planes falling off in mid-flight usually doesn't mean a profitable situation, does it?
That's never good for business. But, yeah, it is kind of the big news of the day, though. Goldman Sachs, in a note to clients yesterday, said China's DeepSeek, by the way, the number one downloaded app in the world right now, 40 to 50 times. 40 to 50 times more efficient than the U.S. and other large language models. Uh-oh. Not only can they do it for less, they don't need the power either. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. Quick look in at the markets here. The Dow is up 200. The S&P's up 30. The NASDAQ's up 240. Of course, the NASDAQ yesterday, a really tough day. The 10-year note not going the way we want. Higher again today, 458. And again, we got the Fed meeting tomorrow. I'm anticipating a higher bond market tomorrow because no rate cut. And my guess is nobody's going to come out of that meeting tomorrow thinking there's going to be more than 2 rate cuts. I think a lot of people may think there's only going to be 1 rate cut. We'll see. It's going to be about the press conference. Oil's flat right now. Gold rocking and rolling today. You know, we touched the all-time high again Friday. Right now, gold's up 17, 27.58 here after yesterday's sell-off. Silver up 15 cents. $30.30. I'm just going to tell you, be smart here. Be smart. There's a lot of good things to like. There is. The problem that we have is we walked in on a bubble. This Chinese thing with DeepSeek, this is a problem. Because here's what they did. They said, hey, you don't need this many chips. You don't need anywhere near the amount of power. So think about all the spending right now. What are all these companies spending money on? Data warehousing, i.e. power, right? And of course, chips. Get diversified. I'm telling you. Take part of those IRAs. You got those big IRAs. Call us and do it today. Listen, some of these go fast. An IRA, if you called Arlene today, if, and I mean if, you jump on it, and we'll send you, Arlene will hold your hand through the whole thing. It's really dependent upon who has your IRA. It can go as fast as a couple weeks. It could take, Jason, a couple of months to, there's a lot of these companies, let's face it, they don't like to give people their money, even because we keep telling people it's not their money. That's kind of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah. It's as you said, you got to be diversified, right, Joe? It's not always good to have all your stuff in one bag. I'm a big fan of gold and silver being what your savings is. To me, all your long-term savings should be in gold and silver. But as far as investments, there's risk involved. So you got to make sure not to have it sitting in one spot, right, Joe? Because as the economic winds turn, like DeepSeek, right? Suddenly, NVIDIA might not look so important. I was looking at the news that, buy NVIDIA on the dip. This is a great time. It's a bargain. Well, how do you know it's a bargain until the dust settles on what's going on with this AI stuff? But that's risk. Make sure you don't have it all in DeepSeek. Make sure you don't have it all in NVIDIA if you're going to do something like that. But if you really just don't know what to do with it and you want to save it, that's why we do gold and silver. You got to put it there and keep it safe.
Call us 800-951-0592. Following the news from NVIDIA after DeepSeek, here's what their CEO said. He called it an excellent AI advancement. And this was, I think, the biggest piece for me for that. That complies with U.S. technology export controls. So NVIDIA admitting, hey, man, wow, that's pretty damn good. Oh, and by the way, they didn't break any rules, which is what I thought yesterday, right? I thought, gosh, they're probably using the NVIDIA chips that they're not supposed to have. Apparently, that's not the case. DeepSeek work illustrates how new models can be created using the test time scaling technique. The chip giant told Bloomberg that leveraging widely available models and compute that is fully export control compliant. So really doubling down, saying that this was fully export control compliant. That is kind of dismissing analysts and experts that the Chinese startup couldn't have done this, right? I think a lot of people are still in shock that this is happening. OpenAI, now remember, OpenAI, they're the ones that were part of this we're going to spend all this big money. He responded, impressive, particularly around what they are able to deliver for the price. And that's the big thing. Here's the thing. It was the Chinese, are they doing stuff that we can't do? The answer to that would be no. Now, some of these tests, they were better, right? They were better. But they were really close, right? Nobody, it wasn't like they were light years better or light years worse. All of them were about the same. The difference was, well, as Goldman Sachs pointed out, 40 to 50 times more efficient. What does that mean? Well, they can do it for 400 or 500 times less the price. And right on that, guess what we announced today? It just makes sense. OpenAI says that they have launched their own chat GPT for the government. Yes, it'll be a secure platform for the government. Unfortunately, like everything our government does, Jason, apparently it's going to cost us 400 or 500% more than it should. But hey, we got it though.
Yeah, I wonder if those margins are going to hold much longer. Sometimes you wonder if that kind of money floating around is just, reaping huge rewards. I wonder if DeepSeek's really going to reset the value of AI, Joe. It's something we're going to have to watch. $500 billion versus what did you say yesterday? 6 million. It's such a different world. I'm just, as you're talking, I'm trying to figure out who owns DeepSeek. There's a hedge fund in there.
Yeah,
and you got the
Chinese hedge fund.
You got Liang, who supposedly owns 51% of it, but just wonder who's in there. Who is in that other 49%, if that number is even true? I mean, it's all Chinese until you find out it's not all Chinese, right, Joe? That's what I'm wondering. Who's really in there, right? Because let's face it, it's only a small value company until everybody buys into it, right? And then suddenly it becomes worth a whole lot more very quickly. So this is one of those get-rich-quick situations. High flyer is the hedge fund. I don't even know. How do you even, I guess you have to be at a certain level of investing to even get into a hedge fund, right, Joe? You and I, we can't really get into some of these hedge funds.
Yeah. You got to have big dollars for the hedge fund to even answer the phone, right? You got to go 7 deep and a lot of times 8 deep in the amount of zeros needed behind those checks. But on other news, okay, so we got a new Treasury Secretary. He is pushing the Trump tax cuts, which are supposed to expire here in 2025. He says that he would like to see. Now these are the wish list: 3% annual growth, significant trims to deficits, increased domestic oil production. By the way, he put a number on 3 million barrels. That would take us to 14 million barrels a day. That would be great for us at the gas pump. Listen, if we wanted gas to go down to, I don't know, $2, we could probably get it down to $1 if we pumped. The problem is, if we did that, the oil companies would go out of business, right? Because they can't pump the oil. They can't. Hey, at $28 or $30 a barrel, they're like, yeah, no. At $50 a barrel, they're like, no. Right now at like 70, right? What is it? 74. That's probably like, hey, we'll stay at about this level. In other words, for every well that starts to go dry, we can probably put another well to replace it. But we're really not interested in bringing more oil on, because that'll just lower the price. And we need oil at a certain level to make money. So it sounds great. Not very logical, but okay. Now, other things that he had said in front of the committee, talking about tariffs. He wants to start gradually. Now remember, we've told you tariffs are coming, period. They're coming. How do we know this? Well, Donald Trump said, hey, I'm creating a whole new department, right? What's its job? What's this department's job? Because let's face it, he's cutting departments, but he wants to create at least one new one. What's it going to do? Collect the tariffs. That's its job. Collect the tariffs. In his, speaking, he said that he would like to, according to the Financial Times, start with a new universal tariff on U.S. imports. He would like to start at 2.5%. But he said, but I want to raise it gradually. Okay, I don't know what gradually means. But he said the levies could be as high as 20%. So, Jason, I think this was a very interesting comment from our new Treasury Secretary saying, hey, you know what? We need to give tariffs to everybody. He called it the universal tariff. Let's start off small, but it's got to go a lot bigger, right? We can, and I guess he's trying to get the best of both worlds. I want my cake and eat it too. If I just do 2.5%, we get some money coming in, but inflation, it won't make inflation that much worse. We'll make inflation worse later, right? Because we're going to need a whole lot more money. Listen, guys, I'm just going to tell you this so you understand. What does this really mean? Is this about bringing jobs back to America and all this? Sounds great. It's a great statement. Bring production back to America. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, 2.5% ain't doing it, 5% ain't doing it, 10% ain't doing it. 20%, maybe. But as you know, then what happened? Well, we need more money. It's not too expensive, blah, blah, right? And then you start this game again.
Well, and Joe, what you just said, the 20% maybe, if you got 25% on Canada and Mexico, maybe that brings stuff back over the border, which is why those tariffs might be in place, right? Maybe it's easier to bring it over the border than to bring it back from China.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. There's a reason why he said universal. I'm going to lay it out for you. And then, what did he say about income tax and possibly going back to... Did you know? 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. Let's lay it out. What are they talking about? It's very, very simple. The United States is quickly going broke. Period. Donald Trump knows it. Scott Bessent knows it. Jay Powell knows it. Most of America doesn't know it. We have this illusion that everything's going to work out. So why did Scott Bessent this morning talk about a universal tariff? And I'm going to tell you this. This is what we're committed to growing out of it. Right? That's the plan. That's why I keep telling you, buy all the gold and silver you can. But you come out with a tariff against Mexico or Canada. You could do that. China. Companies will react. Will they bring some of the jobs home? Maybe. Certain industries will probably be able to do it. The rest will just go somewhere else. Oh, okay, well, if you're going to tariff Mexico, we'll go to Canada. You're going to tariff Canada. You know what? We'll go to Brazil. We'll go to Vietnam, right? We'll go to someplace in Africa or South Asia, right? There's plenty of other places to go. They'd rather not. That's why he's talking universal. Hey, there's nowhere to go because we tax everybody. But the realities are they already know. We've got to get the money from somewhere. If we're going to extend the tax cuts, Donald Trump doubling down in Vegas. We're not going to tax your tips anymore. Man, what a great. I want him to get to the no income tax part, right? And then finally I can stop paying all this tax. But the money has to come from somewhere. And it's a lot of money. This is the problem, right? $100 billion doesn't fix it. 200 billion, 300 billion, it doesn't fix it. That's the problem. And when we sit here and we look, by the way, tomorrow, we're going to do a huge show tomorrow. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. I want everybody, if you're over the age of 40, tomorrow you're going to want to pay attention. Tomorrow you're going to really want to pay attention because it's going to be something where I don't think people are going to be surprised at what I share. But I do think the amount of money that really, truly is going to be needed is going to be really eye-opening as it sits right now. So I think this Treasury Secretary, he gets it. Man, we got to have money from somewhere. And tariffs is a great place. He also said he's committed to eliminating income taxes. Now, that's a great idea. Should have never have had an income tax to begin with. Of course, you got to replace it with something. And what is it going to be? A consumption tax. Now, if you eliminate the income tax, man, can you imagine the IRS would be down to like a minuscule thing, right? You got a few other things. You got like inheritance and capital gains and stuff like that. But you get rid of the income tax, right? The vast majority of Americans, hey, you know what? We don't have to worry anymore. What's a consumption tax? Well, it's simple. Anytime you buy anything, there'll be a tax. What would that tax have to be? Now, you know the government, so they'll probably try. Well, maybe we won't tax your food, or we won't tax, I don't know, your Social Security. Well, again, if that goes away, income tax goes away, I think that would go away. They may make a few exceptions, or try to anyway. But, Jason, if I was betting on this, 25% I think is probably a starting point, and that's probably not enough. But when you buy, you go to the car dealership. There's consumption tax, right? You go buy a house, a consumption tax. You go buy gold, the consumption, right? The consumption tax, it would have to apply to the vast majority of things. Now, of course, think about this. The more you spend, the more you get taxed, right? So guys like Musk and Zuckerberg and all those guys building their yachts and all that, so that all would get taxed. It would be heavily inflationary, especially right out of the chute. Now, the good part is you got a lot more income. The bad part is the only big problem with the consumption tax is there's only one way for it really to go, right? Which is, well, we'll start here, and then it keeps going higher. Now, one of the other things he said, though, going back and adopting a gold-backed currency. So Bissett is on record as saying we need to do two things, so he gets it. Because he knows if I go to this consumption tax and we don't rein in the spending, this is going to be disastrous. By going to a gold-backed currency, Jason, I think that's his way of saying, hey, this is the only way I know to keep government from overspending.
Some of that sounds like a fantasy, so you can't go to a gold-backed currency.
A lot of fantasy here. Like I said, right, this is a wish list.
No, they're saying things that could possibly work, but you can't have a gold-backed currency and still have a Federal Reserve and a printing press going on at any time. So, because obviously if they gold-backed it, I'm sure it'd be in some weak thing. Oh, we need to have 2% gold-backed or 20%. It'd be something really small. Now, the consumption tax could work at that 20 or 25% once, as he said, if you cut spending. Well, I get the feeling they're not going to cut spending. They'll have the consumption tax, and quantitative easing. That's how they do it, Joe. That's how they do it. And then, well, we just don't have enough government money. We don't have a debt ceiling. We up the consumption tax. That's what they just mentioned.
800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. Again, gold's up 17, make it 18 here, just below 27.60. Silver higher as well at 30.30. Today, last day, 2025 Silver Eagles on sale at $725 a roll. Jump on them if you're into the 2025s. I mean, we can get them. Here's the deal. They want almost $1 more an ounce for 2025. So I always want you to get as much as you can. So right now, 2025s, essentially we're running them like they weren't 2025s. $725 to get your 2025 Silver Eagles. $20 gold pieces, $27.35 on a $20 gold piece. You got, gold sitting here at $27.60. So, Jason, the streak here of below gold, $25 below spot on $20 gold pieces today at 800-951-0592. Right now, on these 20s, just letting you know, we only got 25. That's it. And then we're going to see, higher prices, as all of you know, so take advantage. 800-951-0592. And Wall Street's starting to give back some of these earlier gains as we're getting ready to hear what the Federal Reserve is going to have to say tomorrow about where interest rates may or may not be heading. The good news is we do have a new Treasury Secretary, and he's talking about, hey, I'm for tariffs. I'm for universal tariffs. I want to do them gradually, but we need the money, and we got to change the tax system. This, let's face it, raising the income tax, not going to work. Not going to work. I mean, just to cover Medicare and Medicaid, you'd probably have to take the income tax to close to 20%. So right now it's at 12.4, right? 6.2 for the employee, 6.2 for the employer. And you're probably better off. He probably understands it. Better off going to the consumption tax. Because, boy, it'll be a whole lot easier to just bump that up here and there. By the way, Polaris now saying that they have a 65% decline year over year. Wow, 65% down on profitability for Polaris. They say sales are going to be negative in 2025. More importantly, Jason, Polaris is saying, sales, they're not down 65%. Problem is, the cost of building all this stuff continues to rise, and sales are down. Kind of a double whammy out of Polaris today. Of course, Polaris, that's like leisure, right? Because that's your quads and your I don't want to call them doom buggies, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Go out and ride around in the desert and do all this kind of stuff, and jet skis and things of that nature. Interesting how all of this is kind of shaking out. 2025 is going to be a very, very interesting year. We haven't seen the effects yet of all the job cutting that Trump wants to do in government. On top of this, it really will be an interesting year, won't it, right? With how many job gains, how many job losses. By the way, General Motors had earnings out today. Earnings season really kicking off here. Their shares down more than 10%. As Wall Street said, a lack of enthusiasm from investors about the automotive industry. Let's face it. Interest rates weren't nearly as low as General Motors or the rest were hoping for. So again, Jason, some of these big consumer stock companies starting to take it on the chin.
How low is the percentage of stock ownership from 401ks and individual investors? It's got to be, 10% now? I mean, how much of that market really is the 401k public? Right, Joe? I'm sure there's a number out there they float around. These things aren't moved by local investment. It's these big, huge companies that make these decisions. I mean, Joe, you were talking about the consumption tax, right? And they eliminate the income tax. That's the way that you brought it up, and the way that it's being said. It's not going to work. But you know what? In the short term, it sure would promote some growth, wouldn't it? Because suddenly everybody would have no income tax. Think about all the spending that would happen short term. Hey, I got 20% more in my check. I'm going to go buy something. It's almost like a stimulus check, right? Yeah. And then the prices of everything would just be ridiculous. Pretty soon you wouldn't be able to buy anything with that extra tax money, right, Joe?
Well, final segment coming up, and all the crypto mania out there, the IRS making more changes to the tax code. I'll tell you about that. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. $20 gold pieces, $27.35. Gold right now up $18.50 at $27.60. 2025 Silver Eagles on sale. By the way, we're down to 15 of the $20 gold pieces, so if you want them better, get them. 2025 Silver Eagles, $725 a roll at 800-951-0592. A new study out saying that 88% of crypto owners fail to properly declare their crypto on tax returns. I hate to say it, but the big guys, they're doing it. Right? This is all the mom and pops out there. This is me and you. I'm sure of it. Right? The guys that are buying, $1 billion of Bitcoin, they're reporting it. It's us. And of course, a lot of us don't know exactly how we're supposed to do it. But just to let everybody know, starting this year, the IRS is requiring all centralized cryptocurrency exchanges. So the big Coinbase, to give you an idea, okay, Coinbase. They are now required to report all transaction data. So once again, this myth that you can own crypto and be anonymous, no, you can't. They're not going to allow it. And there's belief that the IRS is going to have to go over this. Jason, they just need to get money, right? That's the problem, right? Every turn, I don't know if this would even be worth it or not. I don't know. right? But, how much tax are you going to get? But I don't think it matters. They're going to need to come out and show people, okay, we want to spend $1 trillion. Here's $1 trillion of cuts or taxes that we can use to offset the trillion. And I think that, they're going to go to these places.
Yeah, I mean, there is a way to own crypto privately, but you have to onboard it from one of these exchanges. And there's not a lot of people in the decentralized area of cryptos to make it count as anything more than just a place to secretly put your money. But if you offboard it somewhere and take it in dollars, that agency, which is usually Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, are the main ones. They have a reporting situation there. You can make a lot of money doing cryptos, but it's just like anybody that's listening who wants to be a day trader or be involved in stock market trading. You got to know what you're doing, and you have to be very educated, and you can do really well with it. And Joe is right. Most everybody's going to report the taxes, and you better be careful. When you're doing your taxes, how you're reporting your crypto. It's very tricky. It's very tricky stuff, Joe. It's not as private as all of the Bitcoin cheerleaders say it is. It's not as private as you think.
True. But you can do well. By the way, now gold's up 20. So the deal's getting even better here. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the half-empty cup.